Okay, sorry about that. We actually lost connection. We're back on. So please go ahead and share the page, join, rejoin again. Um, we apologize for that break in transmission. We are back live. So please go ahead if you're on YouTube to go ahead and share as well as Facebook. Share the new video, okay? All right. Sorry, we had a quick break in transmission, but we're back. So please go ahead, share it, and invite those. This is why you gotta subscribe to the page. As soon as we're on, you will get the notification. Okay, we're gonna continue with our questions from where we left off. We apologize for that abrupt break in transmission. Okay, just making sure that we share with all the other pages that we were on earlier on tonight, and we are back. Okay, great. Part number 2. Awesome. Let's get this in this section so that we're able to see all of the questions. Okay, great. All right, sorry about that again. Yeah, so technology. Anyhow, um, so the first part, I'm gonna try to merge them together, make one video. We were saying that there are some people who might want you to pray over their pictures, and if you'd be open to doing that, yes, they are. So, if you missed that part, you're gonna have to go to the first part and listen to that. So we're gonna move on to the next question. Next question we have on the matter of trust. And since this is going to be a fresh video, I do want to encourage you to go ahead, like this page, subscribe to this channel, as well as make sure that you turn on your notifications. So as soon as we're on live, you will get a pop up. Okay. Again, we apologize for that break in transmission just now. And we're back on live again for you. Okay. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm on live on all of the devices and get that going again. Great. Okay. So those of you who are on YouTube, come back on. Those who are on Facebook, go ahead, share it, invite somebody. Great. Now, on the matter of trust, we had this question that came in. What would you advise a young couple who's married and their spouse still maintains friendship with their exes because they didn't end on a sour note? So, what would you say to a young couple who is married and their spouse still maintains friendship with their exes because they didn't end on a sour note. And let me give you some more in terms of this question. As a marriage veteran and a counselor, how would you advise them to be able to come to a place of common ground as it relates to dealing with people from past relationships? Should there be continued friendship, or is it okay to be acquaintances with each other? What did you do, and how would you advise them?
I I think that there should be a cutting, a severance. There should be a separation because if you continue going back, the flesh you can't trust. Remember, you got a history with this person, and so my thing is, if you're married and you're in a relationship with somebody else, you should sever the connection with the past. Because if you don't sever that relationship, the trust matter is going to come up. The other person is not going to be confident that she or he alone is in this relationship, that he or she is battling with somebody else. So there must be integrity in the whole thing. You gotta cut, you gotta separate. X is X.
X is high and right.
Yeah, you
Hi,
see the
how you
person,
doing?
you see the
That's it.
person someplace, and he's court is a matter of courtesy. Hello, good morning, but there should be no this friendship that can lead to other things, because you always got to remember you had a history with that individual, and if you're not careful, things could happen.
Yeah, I know a pastor like to say, what's it? You know, what's the thing with fire
You
stick?
don't see fire stick a day and take think
No,
you
No,
don't
no,
old
see
no, all
old
fire
people
stick.
fire
say
stick don't take long to
to
catch.
catch back. Oh,
Yeah,
and you
the
don't see
other one is you don't see
see
thing
thing a
in the
day
day and take the fire
fire
stick
stick
at
night
night
to
and
look
look
for
for
it.
it because you've seen it
So
right
it's
before you
it
can
gonna
become a
start a
problem.
fire again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially if there was a sexual contact and their children involved, they were married,
Yeah.
divorced, or they had relationships. So you have to be mindful of the flesh. The flesh is not anything you play with.
But I did answer that last week. I said if it's a case
Well,
where
remember they said,
children were
well, yeah. So
involved,
this didn't have they didn't have children. They're saying should they maintain a friendship with the ex because they didn't end on a sour note. That's the difference.
but you've moved on, why you want to still?
There was no sour note.
It doesn't have to be a sour note.
Sour or
Okay.
sweet note, that's it. You
Okay.
just it's
So you're saying basically once you had an involvement or a connection or romantic relationship with somebody and you're
And the
no longer with
relationship
them.
has come to an end, and
Mhm.
that's it.
Okay.
You've started a relationship with someone else,
Yes.
and you've actually gotten married. That's it.
Yes.
So why are you still bending back, looking in the rear
So
view
they're not
mirror?
necessarily bending back. They just want to maintain a friendship because it was a
But
people like
what's the
say it's a good
purpose? What is the
well,
purpose of maintaining that relationship?
I
Is it
don't
that you're
know.
trying to judge the person that you're with based on the relationship that you had with the other person?
I
Why
don't
you didn't
know.
stay with the other person? My
My
thing is there must
yeah.
be a clear cut.
Right.
There must be a clear breaking.
Okay, submitter, you hear the answer? Okay. I agree with you actually. I believe that if you're with somebody new and you're building a life together, you're making a new history, like you said, he's coming with his history, I'm coming with my history, and together we're making our own history, then yes, there's no need to maintain friendship. Because to me, if you're calling an ex a friend, that means if me and my husband got some challenge, chances are because you had that prior connection, you might be tempted to go talking to that person because it's a friend, and there you open a door or give the enemy a foothold on your relationship.
I thought you just need a little crease. The devil just need a little crease, and the next thing you know, problems.
and as AJ is saying here, you can't suck cane and blow whistle at the same time.
That's
I
very
thought
good,
I
AJ. That's a
it
Guyanese thing,
that's
boy.
excellent. You can't suck cane and blow whistle at the same time. You get in trouble. So it's important that you we don't say sever ties, but you have to be mindful that you have a new relationship, and trust is a big factor. You have forgiven the person, you have done all of these things, you didn't end on a sour note, but you have to move on. That is no the person is no longer in your life. I firmly believe that too.
Okay, thank you. um I did say I don't think it's advisable. And listening to you, I don't think my answer is incorrect. It's not advisable at this point. I think you should really draw a line because you can send confusing signals to the person that you are with. For me, I believe if we've crossed that bridge from friend to more and no more, then it is very important and it's imperative that you definitely demonstrate a very clear cut because you run the risk of opening up yourself unintentionally to somebody from your past if there is a challenge in your current and present relationship. Another thing that came up also, there weren't any kids in this question, and they're concerned about emotional attachments. And I believe Pastor did talk about that. You have to be so careful that there might be emotional attachments that will cause you to end up in a very difficult and wrong relationship. All right, moving on to the next question. On the matter of trust again, continued. How should you interact with a person you dated in the same church? Especially since you guys are pastors. You dated somebody in the same church and you no longer are a couple. Should one leave the church? What would you advise? Should one leave the church and one stay, or should they find another church?
I don't think the person should leave the church as such. You there was a brewing a budding relationship between the two of you and it didn't work out. You just continue to maintain your relationship with the Lord and keep going ahead. You see the person as a brother in the Lord and you leave it at that, or a sister in the Lord. I know some people might be uncomfortable, but you can't allow a failed relationship to cause you to walk away from your church.
Okay. What would you say, Sister Cameron?
I agree with Pastor Cameron that you don't allow a failed relationship to cause you to walk away. You could be in the same church if you're comfortable. If not, just go your separate ways. I mean, you don't want any situation, any struggle, but you could be in the same church. I don't see anything wrong with that
Okay.
because I've seen it happen. I've seen divorce and they're in the same church, and they remarried and they're in the same church. So, life has been different in different parts of the world.
All right. What are
With
your
with
top?
the
Sorry.
divorce is going to be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
With the divorce, it would be challenging. My advice would be to, if you were in a situation that, find another church, because you're not going to be comfortable sitting there knowing this person was your husband or this person was your wife and they're with somebody else and you're there. My advice to somebody like that is to look for another church, because emotionally and psychologically you're going to be fighting battles. It can be a mental struggle for you every time you show up to worship. This becomes like a block to you because you're seeing these folk, and then if the person wants to hurt you, they be hugging that person. When they see you, you come in there and they're hugging that person, and you know that you were once the spouse, and maybe that person never did those things to you. Now you're seeing this. My advice would be, go to another church. Avoid that kind of. Your life has more worth and value than that. You don't need to stay there. Just go to another church. We're sorry that you got to leave, but for your own growth and development, it might be better for you to go
Okay.
down that road.
Thank you. All right. So, what are your thoughts now about churches having chaperoned dating events? Now, we hear a lot that books and boys don't mix, books and girls don't mix. And many times, for those who grew up in church or grew up in a very strict household, because everyone here might not be from a church background, what are your thoughts about churches having chaperone dating events? For example, some are true friends but not emotional soul ties. So that means we were thinking about the dating whole aspect, right? Like based on what you were saying. When this question came in and I thought about asking you it, I added something there based on what you'd said about the admirer story, right? So, because it's also a continuation from the first question. If you end up dating somebody, you're not together in the same church. But what about if the church has chaperone dating events? That means it's controlled, it's a little bit less emotional attachment, less involvement. They're basically friends and there's no soul tie because they have been guided along a certain path. What would be your thoughts about churches having chaperone dating events? How effective you think that would be, and would it be something you'd want to embark on doing at your church?
I don't have any experience in that area, and so I'm not going to try to be an expert in it. But for the sake of answering the question, if something like that should happen, there got to be some very straight, strong guidelines or clear guidelines as to how this is going to operate, because you don't want to have a situation where, you know, emotions, people's emotions get hurt as a result of this new um, adventure. And so there got to be some proper guidelines and boundaries that are set up, because if you don't have boundaries, the next thing you know, you get a free for all and anything can happen.
Why it says
But the chaperone.
chaperoned event where
So the
Yeah, but if
chaperone,
you're
what?
dealing with young people, you know how slick they can be.
well, it's not only young people. I'm not necessarily young people. I'm gone past young
Well,
people,
you're supposed
right?
you need a chaperone.
But yes, because the I guess the idea behind a chaperone dating event is that there are other accountability adults who are
Hmm.
present. Not it's not just a teenage thing where you're having these events to help singles who are not visible or interacting with other singles to come together and interact with each other, almost kind of like a Christian or a church speed dating kind of event. If you know anything about that, so you wanted to
Yeah,
comment?
the chaperone has to be somebody who understand that whole scenario, or else you're
Think of
gonna
it
have.
like how you set up Manette and Sammy, that kind of
Oh
scenario,
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
But
thing.
Well,
that was
that
just
was in.
one situation.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
We were acquainted with Sammy. We were acquainted with Monet. She was a member of our church where we were pastoring. I knew Sammy since, from way back. And not only that, I stayed in their home when I would visit the United States.
So you have
And
a relationship
so
with
there's a
them,
relationship
right?
there.
So we're thinking
And so
that you
that
have
is
relationship
easy.
with the people in your
Yeah, that is
church.
easy
Okay.
to put that together.
Okay, so I guess it's possible because it's
Yes, yeah,
similar.
it's possible,
Because you
but
did carry them to the what is it, the movie, the not the movie theater, to the
Called,
concert or whatever. That was chaperoning. That's
yeah.
accountability. So I think it's something you should think about because there are a lot of singles at Lighthouse in your church, your ministry, and it would be something good to bring other singles together because your other pastor friends might have singles in their church, and you can vet them. So it's something to
It's
think
it's
about.
it's a good thought, but what I know is that
it calls a
sometimes,
good collaboration
yeah,
between
because
pastors. And here,
yeah,
it's so different here. Back in Guyana, it was easy. I knew the pastor, all of the pastors in the city. They knew me, and we had a
Well,
relationship.
perhaps you need to get to know the pastors here.
I hear you, but some of
Yeah,
these
you hear.
pastors not
He
easy to
hears
deal
me.
with.
they're
Great.
not very
They're not very
cooperative.
Right.
open. The moment they hear
Right.
an accent, you
Right. So some people are saying they're too old or grown for chaperone. So clarification there, chaperone doesn't necessarily mean that you're teenagers and
And you're
somebody's
wanting to
carrying you.
have
And
sex when they
I
go out
know.
and all of
So
these
it's
things. Yeah,
it's
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 just
basically a dating event where you have maybe accountability
it's a
individuals
whole new
who are bringing you
approach.
together. Because
Yeah.
how many of you watching here are going places and finding and seeing people? How many of you are tired of the online dating scene? How many of you are tired of going and find somebody in the club? So let's let the church do some matchmaking like Naomi did.
And I
All
believe
right.
I believe in matchmaking, right?
And I believe with her too. Okay, last one on this one. This card. If trust is broken or questioned, how can the offended move past the offense? So if trust is broken or questioned, how can the offended move past the offense?
when trust is broken,
Or
it
questioned.
it would take a lot of work on both sides. The one who broke the trust, the burden is on that individual to rebuild that trust. And that individual will have to be honest with the person, because you just can't break people trust and then you rush right in. It's going to happen again. You must prove, you must prove yourself that what created the problem no longer exists. And so if you're still continuing in the same old practice that brought the break in relationship, that created the problem, and you have not taken responsibility for what you have done, there is no hope for that relationship in terms of trust. Because if you haven't taken responsibility for what you have done, how am I going to trust you? You have not proven to me that you've overcome whatever is the problem that caused you to violate the commitment that we had and the trust that we had. And so the other person is always going to be second guessing you.
Is there any way they can get past that? No,
Who could get past?
the offended, can they get past the
The
offense
offended can get past. It is based on the attitude
of the
of the
offender?
of the offender.
Okay. Attitude and actions.
Yes.
And again, trust is a big factor. Trust,
Yes.
because if they're gonna be lying,
We
and
got a
they're gonna,
couple more questions that
and
came in
so
on
on,
trust.
it's not gonna work if they're gonna be
Mhm.
lying. Trust is a
So,
big
like, what are
word.
some of the practical things you think they can do? I know you're saying that the offender has a responsibility to help the offended to trust them again. Like, for what? For example, what? Do they need to buy them gifts? Do they, what
No,
are
no,
some
no.
of the things
You,
they
you
need
don't
to do?
got to buy anything. It is your word,
Yeah.
Okay.
your action,
Okay.
the way you conduct yourself,
Mm-hmm.
the secrecy, and all of these
Yes.
things. You got to be transparent with the person.
Yeah.
I know her
Honesty.
password for her phone. All of you know my password for my phone.
They know
I don't even know y'all
they know
password
the
because I don't really, I
the
don't go down
financial
that
Yeah.
road.
transitions. They know it
And
all.
You got
so
mine in an Excel
and
spreadsheet.
so yes, it's there, but I don't really go checking
We
those
don't check
things.
it because there's no need
But
to check.
I know her password. She knows my password, and therefore there must be that transparency. You can't be hiding stuff. You got two phones. You got one that she's aware of, and there's one that she doesn't know anything about, and that's the one you're doing your mischief on. So unless there is absolute transparency,
Yeah,
it
trust.
is going to be difficult for the one who is the offended to trust you because that person is not sure whether you're telling them the truth or you're lying to them because they've been burnt by you before. And who is to say that you won't burn them again?
You know, I don't like to say devil's advocate. So I'm just gonna be a presumptuous advocate. You know, the scriptures say forgive 70 times 7. So what do you do then? Forgive 70 times 7? If you believe that. So where is the line? I think I'm asking. Where is that line that,
The
okay.
line, I am doing a series of devotions talking about truth. How truth, and I noticed somebody online saying, look, I've had that experience. I've experienced that break over and over that led to divorce. Because, listen, if the person
Exactly. Some say there you go. Go
is
ahead.
not going to be transparent with you,
Hmm.
I am saying that there is no hope for that relationship.
Okay. So I guess the key answer here is there must be total and complete transparency
Of
moving
course,
forward.
And
because you got to
transparency.
build back that
Yeah,
trust.
and
Right.
transparency includes honesty.
Yes.
Most people, about most relationship, one
But
person
not with
is
an
on.
attitude like, okay, well, here, take this.
No,
Because I
don't
gotta.
work like that.
I did it. What will you want
So
me to do?
does the
No, there gotta
offender
be
have a right to have
humility.
an attitude?
Nope.
If
If
the
the
offend Does the offender have a right to have an attitude if the
Yes, you
offended
have an
act?
attitude of humility, an attitude of humility. You have caused
Okay.
you have opened the door.
Mm-hmm.
You caused this problem. There, you don't have the right to be arrogant about anything anymore. You have to be if you really are truly repentant and sorry for what you've done.
Yeah.
Humility. You gotta walk in humility.
Right.
You gotta take
So
some of the
that's the
scorn that can be
attitude.
thrown at you
Okay. There we
because
go.
they offended would
So
say
if
things
they
to you.
really
You gotta
sorry,
sit
they
down and
will
take this
take it.
stuff and say,
Okay. All
I
right.
know, or by I know I mess up.
Mm-hmm.
You got a right to be angry with me.
Yes.
You have a right
Okay.
because you didn't do anything.
This is
I
real.
did it.
Yes.
And so you got a right to be upset. You got a
Yeah.
right to be angry.
Yeah.
I am not going to get upset with you. I am
Mm-hmm.
prepared to
Right.
do what it takes to rebuild this trust.
Yes.
I'm sorry for the mistake that I've made.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you I'm not going to go down that road.
Yeah.
And you must do everything necessary to, to accentuate that promise by making
This is
sure
powerful.
you don't go down doing things that will cause this individual to start second guessing you a second time.
Yeah.
Because remember, when you break trust in a relationship,
There wouldn't be a second time.
that wound is a deep wound,
Very deep. Very deep one.
and it'll take time.
Mhm.
It'll take time. I understand the scripture says love covers a multitude of sin,
And
but the problem you got is that if your partner is not trustworthy, it becomes a real challenge. I'm just being real with you.
Some people they have a lot of patience with it and they try their best. Now, if you are trying, you're doing it 1 year, 2 year, the third year there might be a slip, and the person say the offended would say, "Listen, I know it's tough. I know you've been trying, and so, but it can't be happening all the time, and the person gotta always taking your lied word for it. No, you need to move on, and I need to move on. You know, some people in ministry, we would we used to say in those days, let's pray it through. Yeah, prayer is good, but prayer is an action word. When you get up from that prayer, you must do differently. So they could lay all their hands on you, you could fall down, tumble down, run around, holler around, and so. But at the end of the day, you got to live it so that the other person or both of you could come to that place where you see changes. Honesty, that's a big word. And when they say when dog accustomed to sucking egg, it's hard for them to stop suck egg. So you don't want to be in that category. You want to be in a category where it's your word is your bond.
Amen.
Honesty,
That
honesty,
deserve an amen
truth.
right there.
Yeah.
So I just got a question from my lovely moderator that had a flip to that question. So what if the offended now is not letting go of the offense and
Right.
continuing to hold on, but want the relationship?
Is an oxymoron.
Yes, it's not gonna work.
If you're offended and you still want the relationship, you have to decide in your mind to let stuff go. You gotta let stuff go, because if you still want the relationship and you still holding on to what happened, it's not gonna work. It's a stumbling block in the way. And so my thing about my position on it, or my view or opinion on it, would be that the offender must display a sense of humility.
And forgiveness.
And I mean, you forgive the person, but at the same time,
Forgiveness
you
comes with
gotta
it.
watch
Yep.
and see what is happening.
Yep.
Because if the person, I mean, listen, people could abuse this forgiveness story
Mm-hmm.
and decide, well, I know she can forgive me, and that
Come
kind of
on
thing. I know
now.
he can forgive me, so I
Well,
got a right to go back and do what he's doing because I know they can forgive me. There comes a
mm,
time when you gotta decide in your mind that you had enough of this stuff,
You know,
because
the,
if the person truly respect you, they're not gonna do this thing again and again.
right.
You know that they don't respect you, and
Mm,
so
and
that's why they're going to do it all the time.
and
mm,
even when they go through deliverance, as we would say, right? Because some of them go through
To
deliverance
play
and
the
all of
game
these.
with you too.
Play the game of deliverance instead of they go through and next thing you know they're gone back doing the same sucking egg. So we're saying no, you have to be honest. This is an intentional, deliberate action. I could choose to do so many things. When I used to be going to the prison, when I used to go to the prison, let me tell you something. I went to the maximum prison in Guyana, doing work there, and it was a joy and a pleasure. But that was males. So when I went in there, I know them guys watching me, admiring me, right? So you had to stay on top of what you. No, people do that. People go and get involved with those stuff. You have to stay. I was a married woman. I'm a married woman. I was a married woman going in there, and I know the guys are admiring me. So what do? I play around and play the fool? No. So you have to be intentional, deliberate about your relationship with the Lord. You have a part to play. I hear people saying all these nice things, and we can go through deliverance. And so, when deliverance is done, you better stay delivered. When you fall down under the anointing and the power of the Holy Spirit and you get up, there must be changes. That is bottom line for what I would see through the years with me in the ministry.
yeah.
In addition to that, Jesus said, by their
You
fruits
will know them.
you will know them.
Right, because
Fruit
people say
inspector,
you're judging, pastor, you're judging.
The scripture said, let your judgment be righteous judgment.
fruit inspector.
Don't judge. You don't judge the situation. You watch and see what's going to happen. You better assess it or judge it, whatever the case may be. You have to take responsibility for your life. I told you the sad story. Young woman, marry her, did a wedding for her cousin, and the next thing you know, in 2 weeks' time, I got to present the marriage certificate, and I'm hearing about funeral because she trusted her husband. He went out of the marriage. came back into the marriage
My God.
and brought a sexually transmitted disease to her, which was deadly, and she's dead.
Mm.
You got
Wow.
one life,
Yeah,
and you
I
better
saw
protect the
somebody
one
said
life that you
YOLO.
have.
So I'm looking at some because it's live Q&A, right? I know I asked you to send questions before, but I'm looking at some of the questions. Somebody said, "Life is too short." Adele, your daughter, your other daughter, said, "Life is too short." YOLO. She's not trying to tie up her wonderful life with such a person. It's draining. And then I saw a comment that said, "You got to be your own private investigator. Dating is like a James Bond movie. You have to spy and do the background checks. That's the way you see if you find a villain or you find a partner or an ally." It's funny. All right, we had a question that came in this week, um, all the way from someone in Guyana that said, "How are you able to recognize?" So I know we talked a lot about trust and distrust, right? Now they're asking, "How are you able to recognize signs of mistrust in a relationship and avoid them?" So it's like intercepting it before it happened. How can you recognize that?
That's easy. The moment we are married, Pastor Karen and I married this year is going to be 40 years as you're hearing it in October. We plan a big celebration. So once there is mistrust in the relationship, you know that they say old people got a way of saying women got a sixth sense. I think the men too. And they will pick it up. Women faster. When the man is cheating on her or doing some foolishness in her life, she picks it up. So it may not be anything funny, but listen, I remember, we Pastor Karen and I, from our relationship, I could talk about our relationship because that's where we have our example. And something I can't remember exactly what happened, and he asked me a question, and I said, he said to me, "You don't trust me." I said, "No, not that I don't trust you. I trust you, my husband, but
How
I'm."
many years you been married when you asked this question?
We were somebody was small. Phoebe was. I didn't have Brian yet.
Okay.
And so what I'm saying is a whole lot of stuff here in this whole matter of trust and understanding and the mistrust. No, I didn't have a mistrust in my husband, but I was trying to guard him from his name being called in because things like that happen. People always accuse you, either you're there with somebody or somebody in the ministry and the kind of stuff, and you have to stay clear of those closing doors. And I remember I was saying to him one day, "Do not go to this lady's house because she has a reputation." She got saved, and he said to me that, "Rick, you don't trust me?" I said, "No, not that I don't trust. It's not me. It's not me to trust you. It's what the people gonna say in the community. Oh, we saw the pastor going in by her house, and men used to always go in the house. So the pastor going in. That same day when he was going to go, she was alone at home. Even the guards weren't even there." And he said to me he was a little upset because he said I wasn't trusting him. But the time was early in relationship. If you don't understand that, sometimes we see things as the wife before they could see the stuff. I'm telling you this because I've been through it. I've seen it, and we saved the day because nobody was at home. The day was her alone. Nothing might have happened. Nothing would have happened because he was going to do ministry, but his good name would have been spoken of. And I've gone through that in life. I've seen people accuse me of all kinds of nonsense. And I'm
So
saying, no, no. Trust is a big issue. So the
So the question
question
is,
is
how you recognize signs of mistrust and in a relationship and avoid
easy
it?
because people lie. Lies is be the first thing.
Okay, there you
One
go.
lie.
You hear lies is one.
Secrecy. You're
Mike,
secret about
Mike.
secretive about
You might.
secrecy. You're secret about a lot of things.
So
You get a
some people
phone
say they're
call,
private,
you gotta go
pastor.
out.
Wait, hold on, no.
Listen, you
So
can't be
there's
private
private
in
and
if you're
secret.
married. You ain't no private nothing. The private thing is when you are single. You are
Okay,
married. You gotta be very careful with
open.
that.
Okay.
You gotta be open with your partner. You can't be every time the phone ring at a particular time. You either gone into the restroom or you're gone to some other
Bam
part
bam.
of the house to answer because you don't want nobody else to hear what's happening. There gotta be
But
transparency
some
in the
smarter than that,
relationship.
they answer the phone nicely and you don't even know what's going on. And you're right in the bed of y'all.
But after a while, something is gonna happen. You're gonna find you can't be say hi mom and the person
See, no, then they have codes, right? They have codes. So
if you
you
if
would recognize it as a woman. You will pick it up quickly on it.
people
I'm
if
telling you,
you are
quickly.
at that level where your relationship has gone to the level where things are happening in codes and them kind of story and all this secrecy, like if you know it's classified information, you got a problem.
High class diplomacy. Listen,
Somebody is not being honest with you in the relationship.
those works of the flesh, that's bad business. I mean, if you picked it, like somebody was saying here, that as soon as you get married, soon after changes come. Something. I mean, I understand because when we Pascal and I got married, the next day he was saying, "Yo, let's get move on with life." That's a different story. But when you married him, next thing you know, he hardly coming home, and the old fire stick kicking up somewhere else. That's you will, ladies, you will pick it up. It is easy.
So, so lies is one indicator, right?
High class deception.
Secrecy and privacy, changes in behavior. You hearing? This person has submitted this question. I hope that you're watching tonight and hearing, or you can watch afterwards. Um, any other pointer that can point out mistrust and avoid it in a relationship?
If
Those
you
are some of the main ones
Main
we've
ones.
given you
Okay.
because the other, every other one would fall under those
Right,
categories
right.
that we've given to you.
And then
right.
silent treatments. You stop answering questions.
Yeah,
You're
but
like,
but
why are
all
you
of us is
asking me
do silent
questions?
treatment at some point,
Passive
because when you get
aggressive.
vexed with each other, it's do silent treatment. But
Okay.
when it's persistent, and it
Right. There
continues
you
to
go.
happen,
That's the difference.
it's a whole
Qualification.
different.
I saw a comment here. I wanted to add it. A favorite adult says change is essential for the healing of the offended. This is going back to a comment you made earlier on. Also, the offender doesn't determine the timeline for the offended person's healing. I thought that was something worth mentioning. It means if you've offended me, you don't determine the timeline of my healing as the offended. I think that's good. It has a good place for it. But I also think that you do need to give things a timeline. But I think it's also contextual. It depends on what's the offense,
Mhm.
because you don't want to be offended easily over frivolous things, because the scripture does say offenses will come. Make room for offenses. So in your marriage,
Frivolous things, I mean, are what they are. Frivolous is nothing. Is not something that is minute. That you shouldn't be spending your life and your energy using all your resources on something that is small or frivolous. But if it has to do with infidelity, that is not frivolous. That's major. If it has to do with deception with finances, that's major. And so you got those areas. And that, look, marriages go apart. They're basically about two or three main reasons why marriages fall apart. One is finance, two, infidelity, and the third one will be the trust factor. Those three factors would destroy any marriage. And at the top of the list will be infidelity, which borders on the trust matter, because you go outside and the trusting comes in there. And so, but I want to separate them: finance, infidelity, and the trust.
So the question here, I have to laugh this one before I go to the question. AJ said, Pastor, bathing in Old Spice when you're just going to the carne shop.
Well,
Dial it up.
the commander deception, because you don't want the person
right?
that you with know that you're really making a move,
You
and
go
so
to the
you got in
corner
the
shop and
corner
you,
shop, you get your Old Spice,
Why you gotta
and you
put
got.
on Old Spice to go to the corner
Well,
shop?
cologne. They put on cologne
We
because
know, but
you're
there's
going to
no
meet
need.
somebody.
Yeah.
but
Okay, I see
but but
favorite alert said valid point. Yes,
but
because I think it is contextual. Because I wanted to get that comment in, because I also have an opinion similar to that, and I also have a varying opinion in terms of it depends on what the offense is, right? Because say for example, you and your spouse and last week you didn't take the trash out, and this week you still sour, and next week you still sour. I mean, come on, it goes back to what you said earlier on, compromise and really, shifting and so on. So I hope this person submitted the question here, the answers that were given in this evening. All right, moving on. We have a couple more questions to go, and then we'll wrap up. This question is for Daddy. Last week you shared that you had an inclination from God that she's going to be your wife. That's mommy. Great. What were the next things you did with this new knowledge? As in, how did you prepare particularly for her? So you got this divine inclination that she's going to be your wife. What were the next things that you did to prepare practically for her to become your wife?
Uh, Number one, I decided to start acquiring furniture for the house that we were going to be in. And I started to prepare myself mentally, emotionally, and otherwise, financially, because I am making this major step. And I didn't want to bring her into a situation where we were going to struggle. We had enough stuff to take care of us. She was working, I was working, we had enough resources to take care of ourselves. We took a while before children came, and when before the first child came, your mother went and bought everything, matching color tub, matching color this,
That's
matching
where I
color,
get it
and
from,
so
y'all.
we prepared
Prepare
ourselves.
ahead of time.
We prepared ourselves ahead of time.
Shadow vision board and actual
And
vision board.
so you know that you want to get married, you ought to start preparing yourself. And there's some people that you just got to start, you know, shifting from, because you've been spending a lot of time with them. Now you have a wife. I have had to counsel young couples that get married, but he still want to be going out to the bar, going out to the other place, and leaving the woman in the house alone. You could have left her in her mother's house. You brought her into a house, and you're going all over the place. You're not taking her with you, and so she's there all by herself.
That's another problem, person. You know, sometimes because of where you're coming from, your orientation, your village, the place you live, the things that happen in your life would cause maybe some people to do those. That's where the psychologists are trying to find ways and means of people bettering the ways. But even when they get the information, they're not even using it because they're accustomed. They're some people like I heard like one lady said to me the other day. She said, Sister Cameron, I had to walk away from him. I said, okay, you know, the scriptures talk about walking away because of infidelity and whatever. She said, but it wasn't infidelity. He liked gamble. And she said he was all his money going behind gamble. And she said that she can't get him to do certain things because of how he came up in life. And when they went to therapy, they went to the to get help. So you know what that guy said to the professional? You don't tell me how to run my life. She said when she heard that, she knew it was time to move on. So you know, it's how be careful who you're getting married to. Number one, because watch everything, check the background, because you don't want to marry somebody who in intent to change. You don't have to have an education to be a bad husband or to be a good husband. It just for me, if he had to come good because he had to know Christ, because Christ makes the difference in how we would chart the course of direction. And like I said before, the deliverance and all of that is good, but after the deliverance, you have to stay delivered. It comes with time. You set timelines are good at times, but you know, try your best to do what is important for that relationship. I'm looking at some of the writing, and it's sad that we have to go through some of these things in life because some it takes two hands to clap. One hand can never clap. Watch. One hand is slap.
One hand
so
is
so
slap.
so thank God for knowledge. We have a lot of information that we can give, but we thank God for knowledge.
So sometimes people say they hear or believe God's leading them to marry someone, and then they do a dung arms, and they don't believe or feel they have to put in the work. So tell us, how did you shoot your shot, Pastor? When you heard that she's your wife, you didn't dung arms. You said you started to acquire stuff for the house and so on. As on your part, what did you do? What did you do to help her to realize that you're bringing your lives together? How did you shoot your shot?
If you down in arms because you hear something, you hear nothing. Because if you truly heard something, you're going to put things in motion. You just can't hear and do anything about it. You gotta do something about it. And so if you're telling me that you heard, but you're not doing anything, you're not saving no money for your wedding or whatever the case may be. In my case, I didn't have anybody to give me money for our wedding. I had to be saving money.
You save your money, you grow the chicken, you have to eat it
I,
some
you know,
poultry.
do a lot of things. You
Yeah.
have to be intentional about this thing.
And
He
there you go. That's the word,
and he
intentional.
built his own furniture at
Yeah, I was
GTI.
working at the Technical Institute,
Yeah.
and I had available to me the entire woodwork shop. And so I
So
had
he
the
bought the
woodwork
wood
shop
and he cured the wood
where
and then
we
he
were
built the
building
bed, he built
we were
this.
building all kind in the woodwork shop at the Technical Institute. We're building all kind of furniture in there. And so all I had to do was to buy my materials, plane them, put them to dry and to cure. And so that when we started to work them and to build our furniture, it was good wood.
So you shot your shot by just making sure that she knew that she could come into a home, into a house. And that's interesting because you guys didn't live together for the first 2 years of your
Hmm.
marriage. How as a segue, because that wasn't a question that came in, but you're newly married. I'm sure you want to spend a lot of time with your new spouse. How very, very briefly, how did y'all manage 2 years married and not living together?
Well, when you know that this is the Lord's doing,
I guess that goes back to knowing that
yeah,
she's
you
the
when
one
you
God sent for
know,
you.
she knew, I knew, and so we had no doubt about what we were doing. And even though it took 2 years, there were times when I would go to Berbice,
Okay, because the
and
last time
it
it
was
sounded like
both
she was
ways.
going most of
No,
the
no, no,
time.
no, no. I would go up.
Sometimes on weekends he would come
My
down.
Okay.
problem that I had is that I was pastoring, and so the only time that I could go would be Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
because back then we had not only what, a 5 day work week was it? We had a 6 day work week.
No, you work on
Many
Saturday.
companies worked on
Saturday.
Saturdays up to midday.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And so it's not like now, we work, well, this is a different society. But back then, we worked Monday to Saturday, half day.
Mm.
And so when I would sometimes ask my boss for time to leave work at 10 o'clock to be able to at least get to spend some time up there with her. And especially when she give birth to you, I wanted to at least spend a little time up there. And that was the situation. When she had vacation time, I know everybody coming down.
All right.
But it was not easy. It was challenging because you many times you want your wife to be there and she want her husband to be there. I am not there. She's not there. And it's not something that we had control over.
Right.
Somebody
And we
would say,
needed the money, so we
why you
had to
didn't
work.
leave? Why one you didn't leave the work?
Well, I
And you
think
would
for
have give us money to support
I
us.
believe in your days. I believe in y'all days. That would really work. I don't know how well that will work in today's day, but I think you underarched your answer with it definitely has to be God bringing you together because he's going to be the only one that can really and truly keep you together in addition to you adding the works to your faith. So thank you for that. Because I've often wondered when you say this story, like, how in the world y'all do? I do not do long distance relationships. We have a question there, and I think that can be the last one for tonight. And now I have no choice but to bring you all back for the other questions another time. But this question now is on the Lord's will. I brought it forward as you're on that topic. How do you encourage someone who got a revelation about their spouse before the other person and had to wait and decided to wait even as long as 10 to 15 years until the other person caught on? How do you, we said,
God
Jesus,
bless the
how do
person. That person got to have a lot of
you, faith?
grace, a lot of grace. I don't know why you waiting 15 years unless if you are, early in your teens and you're not ready for marriage. But if you are ready for marriage,
Hmm.
listen, there are other fish in the sea.
So you saying if the Lord tell
I
you
don't know
this,
what the Lord said. Some people,
okay,
listen, the Lord get blamed for a lot of things.
it's true,
Remember, the
Pastor.
Lord said that the former president would be reelected?
This is not that kind of show.
I'm telling
Okay.
you, they got people saying the Lord said, but the Lord didn't say anything. There are a lot of prophets who come and say, the Lord said this and the Lord said that. Listen, The Lord has God is such a good God that He can take all these blames and still continue being God.
Oh,
So I'm
we
saying
have
to
a.
you that people gotta be very listen. All this thing, but the Lord's will and the
Mhm.
Lord's will and the Lord's will and that
You
kind of
still have a
story.
choice to make.
You have to see somebody and like
Mhm.
that
Right.
person like you, because you want to be able to live with that
Because then
individual.
you can blame the Lord and say, Lord, this is what you give me.
Because you know you don't want to do what Adam did when the whole thing
When the
came. The
problems
Lord,
hit,
Adam says, "The
God, is this
woman
woman you give me?
is this woman. Is not this
There's so
woman."
many Adams in
You got
today's
to make
time.
sure that the person that in your mind you have a picture in your mind, the kind of
Hmm.
person that you would like to be your
Right.
spouse.
Okay.
You have a picture. Everybody got a picture in the mind. I mean, you're looking for Barracuda, but you got a picture in your mind, the person that you would like to be your spouse, and you work in that
And
direction.
you know,
Okay.
in the modern days today, like I said, you don't change principles but methods.
Hmm.
One of the things that I always often say to the children that life is about taking a risk.
Right.
And I pause. It's about taking a risk because he's from one background, I'm from another background, from
Well,
this
it's not
Right,
that
background.
because no
life.
matter
Marriage,
how
I
much
mean,
exactly,
marriage,
even if you believe
eh,
God says something is a
yeah,
risk, you still gotta work out the
You
marriage,
still
details.
gotta work out the
you gotta
details.
be able. Is like the way I put it. Marriage is like getting on a boat,
There you go.
going out into the ocean. You have no GPS, no compass, but you're sailing. You're trusting that you're gonna arrive to land safely, and that is marriage, because you don't know what the future holds. But if you trust each other and you respect each other, you keep moving. There's so many other things in this whole thing about marriage. Number one, when you're young and you're on fire, you ain't expecting your spouse to get sick or anything like that. So how are you going to prepare should your spouse become sick? These are a lot of things you got to take into consideration. Am I ready? Should the unfortunate happen, my spouse becomes ill, am I mentally, emotionally prepared to deal with that situation? I remember the day when your mom and I went down to DC, and she went to you went to get your results. Yeah, we went down there to get this results because she did they did the diagnosis, and so we were going to get what the results would be. And so we went into the room, and they came in and they sat us down, and they told us exactly what the situation was. And when we came down from there, it was a cold day. I can't forget it. It was a cold, rainy, dreary day in DC. And we came down to the car. There was gross silence in the car because we were never hit with such in news. And that C word is always a challenge. Doesn't matter who you are. It's always a challenging something because you don't know the nature of it. The questions that come in your mind, you don't know how long you got and all this kind of story. And so there was gross silence in the car. And at that point in time, I just didn't want to say anything because I didn't know emotionally how she's processing, because this is tough news for both of us. Tough news. But when she started to talk, I remember saying, God didn't bring us this far to leave us. God is
See,
going to
you need
help
to
us
get you a
to
man
get through
who's gonna
this
really
situation.
encourage you
And so all of my
and be there.
words to her during that period
Yes,
was in the direction we will get through this thing.
we will
And
get
I
through.
would not
Us, we.
entertain any negative thought
Yeah, I
because
remember that.
I am not looking forward to any other thing other than she being well.
But I could tell you what, when he did all of that nice thing, right? But this girl here was saying this is a lot of foolishness going on right now. And I start one crying, carrying on like my head and good. So, and he was just quiet because he don't know
It was
what
it was
else to
it it,
say.
it was a,
He
it
said he
was
didn't know
an
he was
Right.
emotional.
understandable
Right,
emotion
right.
because it's not. I mean, I have not been there, you know, but to get that diagnosis. And so here is the person closest to me with this diagnosis.
Yes.
We don't know what is the nature of it, how serious it is. And so whatever emotions she was going to display, I had no other choice but to be there as an encourager, to listen to whatever she's saying. Even if it's crazy, I still had to listen and not create any impression that what she's saying is crazy.
I like that, Daddy, because I remember also Daddy talking to me as I guess as the firstborn, you get a lot of inside information. But I took that as a very pivotal moment for me as a young adult, actually, because she's closest to him, but she's my mom, and like Daddy said, you wonder what's gonna happen, how long you got your parent, whatever it's at, what stage, etc., etc. And when he said, "Listen, your mother might not sound like she's making a lot of sense, but she's got some news that's not so good. We're going to support her and we're going to, give her some encouragement." Fast catching cramp. Don't worry, we're almost done. And just allow her to say whatever she wants to say. One of the things we actually agreed to do is not to if she started to start talking a certain way like Daddy said, I'm gonna make it, and that we as a family came together collectively and said, "You're entitled to feel how you feel, but we're not gonna give voice to certain things." And in this what you're sharing, it says to me, we have to be so careful who we marry, because this is telling me definitely this is the Lord's will. That there is no this is ride or live. Phoebe said, "There's no ride or die, ride or live." Ride or live.
Your sister is Adele has to be
Adele is
said
hot
that
in the
one of the
comments.
emotions you should have displayed is to release one of my boards. Should have got to be.
Pastor has four unique children, okay? Adult children, by the way. But I like that. So definitely, I know we kind of segue away from the question, but it is on the Lord's will. When it is the Lord's will, there is no question. There is no doubt. There's no hesitation. There's no confusion. And as the question had said, this person has waited for a long time, and they decided to wait, even if the other person didn't catch on. And then there's also the flip, like you said, is it really the Lord's will?
Punishing
Because
you,
you punish yourself and
you punishing yourself.
then when the
You
person catch on, now you having a attitude, or you're stuck on what you thought they were 10 years, 10, 15 years ago. Anyhow, but
all of
actually,
them they need guidance and they need counseling. You waiting 15 years on somebody for what?
I don't know, Pastor. I ain't
I
promising
don't know who you
anybody
waited
that.
15
I'm
years
not.
for.
I'm not
I'm
promising
not sure
anybody
that
there.
you heard anything from the
And
Lord.
then in 15 years, that person's totally different now. There's a lot of changes. So I actually know someone. Actually, we know Sherwin and Trevlin. Trevlin had gotten a revelation that Sharon was going to be her husband a long time. But like you said, I think he qualified it. They were so much younger.
Hmm.
And she actually waited about 10 years before he could confirm that to her. And in the meanwhile, she went on with her life. He went on with his life. And, in between, they probably dated other people or what. I don't know. I don't know if they did, but
I don't think
I
so.
don't think she did, because he was not aware,
Hmm.
right, of the revelation. But when he caught on, it was as if, okay, I've caught on. Let's get it going. I
Remember,
think,
they were in the youth group and they were
right.
moving together. They were always moving together and they were much involved. She
Yes.
was like an intercessor in the youth group, and he
Hmm.
was a leader of the youth group.
Right.
And when the time came that they approached me and said that this is what the Lord is saying to them, and we prayed with them, I brought them before the whole church
Mm-hmm.
and announced to the church, these two young people
Yeah. Desire to be married.
desire to be married. I want to ask the church to keep them in prayer
Yeah.
and to support them.
Yes.
They're still married
You
up to
see,
today.
there is like the little chaperone dating event I was talking about. So there you go. Bump in your chair. You Pastor, this chair. I was telling you, warning you. Ah. All right, as we're giving Pastor a different chair, we'll be springing a different chair for you. Now the other person has caught on, and the first person is numb and jaded from waiting. How do you encourage them? Right. So now the other person has caught on, and they feel a little. The one, the one is okay, Pastor. She's gonna give you a different chair. So let's move on. Let's move on. The one who was waiting after a long time, this is part of the question. They now suddenly feel numb. How do you encourage them because they feel confused? This was supposed to be God's will and it wasn't working out how you thought it was supposed to work. It is God's will. Because remember, you had said also, if Sister Cameron, if Mommy, you had not answered or step up as how he was hoping you would have when God told him, Pastor would have been moving on. So, the question is, so that if you think you hear from God, then it's possible that you can move on. So let's drop your chair down a little bit. All right. It's down there? Great. Right? So it's possible that you can move on if you believe that you heard from God and the other person didn't hear, you can move on.
Yeah, you have a right to move on because if the person you said you heard, but the other person hear nothing, you can't take a hammer beat that person on the head to tell them that well God tell me and you have to do what God said. A person got to know this is about their life. This is about your life. It's not a run in the park. This is about your life, and therefore, both of you got to know that this is indeed what God say, and to really move on and do what the Lord tell you to do.
Okay, let's move on. So we had a question that came in tonight live. I want to get that question in so we can move on and then wrap this up. Okay. Sorry, before we get to that long distance relationship, let me see if I should bring that one before. Okay, let me bring that one before the long distance. Okay, live question from episode 2. Spouses often come from different backgrounds, hence, they may each have been taught to address areas of disagreement differently. For example, one spouse may have been taught to suppress while the other has been taught to confront. How do you reconcile those two ways of dealing with disagreement? So we have one who has been taught and came up learning that you don't address it, you just suppress it, ignore it. Eventually somehow it's gonna go away. Then the other one, I'm just adding to the question. That's not there though. But then the other one has been taught and they also have been trained in a way of confront the issue and deal with it. How do you reconcile those two different ways of dealing with disagreement in a marriage?
The suppressing is not gonna work in every case. There's some situations, there's some things that you could keep quiet about because it is not that significant. But if it's something that is significant in the relationship, you need to meet and discuss and talk about it because bottling it inside is not helpful
Okay.
because you're going to stress yourself out. You're going to stress yourself out by bottling all of this stuff on the inside because chances are your spouse don't even know that these things are happening to you. And so communication becomes a very important aspect in the relationship because if you don't communicate things that are happening to you, how the other person is going to know? Other person is not a magician,
Don't
or
read
is not,
minds.
and the person don't read your
Come
mind,
on now.
and the person is not God. So you need to be able to communicate and during the time that we call courtship and counseling, some of this stuff would come out because why are you courting somebody and you are hiding your feelings and things that are bothering you, and you still want to go ahead? Listen, if it happening before, it's gonna happen after. So you're
Right.
gonna deal with it before you get to the altar because only it's
So
gonna get
so
worse.
so you mean that they should really because they're saying they have two different ways of dealing with disagreement. How are they gonna deal with it before it gets worse?
whatever. Listen,
One
there
person sees an
is,
issue and they confront it. The other person sees an issue and don't really want to deal with it, don't want to confront it. I don't have a problem if you don't want to confront something now. We can table it and deal with it later on, but there must be a confrontation and a dealing with it because it's going to fester.
but it can pile on because something
Right.
is going to come up on top of the one you have not
Yeah.
dealt
It's
with number
festering.
one. Then
Right.
you got number two show up on you,
So
number
as
three
a
show.
counselor, how would you help them?
Be upfront with the story. Be
Okay. But
upfront.
they don't like to talk about these issues. They like to confront.
But as a counselor, I would say to you that you're headed for disaster.
Okay.
That's a
So you
red
have to make a
flag.
choice to
It's a red
confront.
flag. You have to make a choice. You have to decide,
Mm-hmm.
am I going to release? And some of it could be because of past experience
Right.
that you grew up and you had all kind of misfortune in your
Yeah.
relationship with your parents
Yeah.
and so many other things. And so
Okay.
all of this is in you right now. But for you to be successful in a marriage, you got to get rid of that stuff
Okay.
or it can
Okay.
bite you.
So I think both persons also have to compromise because that's a word you guys
Well, you
been
ask
saying
the
a
other
lot.
person to be patient and understanding,
Okay.
but how long are you going to be patient and understanding with somebody who is
Woo.
not communicating how they feel? You only finding out how they feel when maybe there's a conflict.
Nah.
You get vexed with each other or upset with each other,
Ay,
then
Jesus.
the person going back,
Jesus.
you
Yes.
did me this way back then and not. No, no,
Come
no,
on,
that's
no, no,
rubbish.
no. Pastors a whole other topic for another time.
You can't
Not
deal with
going
that
way
stuff.
back when to offenses from way. I think there's a time when you gotta decide. This offense happened so long ago. Where are we today? Let us decide to drop it. Let's just forget it and move on. But I'm hearing you say you have to make a conscious effort, a conscious choice, or else they're gonna keep piling up,
It
piling
can
up.
pile up and it's worse when it pile
Okay.
up on you because
Well,
you got a
for the
lot
two
to
of you,
deal with.
I know, Pastor, you don't really like to be talking a lot about certain things. You prefer to process, pass it, give it time. Sister Cameron, I is let's deal with this now. And I think I have a mix of both of that in me. Certain situations like this is heavy. I will communicate though.
Mm.
I need a moment. Let me process, then I will come back.
Because
But
it's
there I
always
find the
good to
older I
think.
get, I don't have that patience.
No, but
Let's
it's
deal with it
always
now.
good to think the thing
It
through.
don't mean we ain't
Because
thinking.
when you're emotionally charged and upset,
True.
invariably you would make a bad decision.
Okay.
And so it's very good to at least think it
Take
Think
a
through.
minute.
before you
Take a
talk.
moment. Well, you often say, if it's 10,000 volts, just take a minute, walk away, calm down to 1,000 volts,
Yeah,
and then come
because
back.
if you're emotionally upset,
All right.
you're not gonna make proper decisions. You're gonna
If
make
you're
decisions
emotionally
that are
charged,
based
you're gonna make
on
bad
on
decisions.
emotions.
Okay. All right. I'm just scanning through the questions. Some of these other questions, they're heavy topics, and we will definitely have to bring you all guys back, because our time is well spent. So I'm gonna take just one question. I'm gonna take just one last question, and then we're gonna say goodnight for tonight. And next series is gonna start in May. So this series, how did we get here? I want to feature husbands and wives who are married for a long time, at least more than 10 to 15 years, because that tells me they have crossed a certain line. As a matter of fact, 15 years and over. Most of the guests who are coming on, they're married for more than 15 years. As a matter of fact, more than 20 years. So definitely you want to stay tuned. Thank you so much for those who stayed with us. As I said, it's not gonna always be live. When it's live, we just want your interaction, and it takes a lot for us to be live. And we're now starting out, and so I'm so happy that you're growing together with me as we do this program. Again, I want to thank my parents for being on with me tonight. I'm gonna give the last question, and then we're going to just I have a special tribute for you, and we'll say good evening for now, and then you'll join me again in March. So this season or series is gonna run until the end of April, and I'm only going to be airing this program when it's live or pre recorded on the second and third Sunday nights. So, because this is the first one, we wanted to give you live interaction, and the others will probably be recorded and some will be live. Whenever we have a Q&A session, it's going to be live for the most part. So, I want to thank you, parents. I know we've been sitting here for a little while and we had a little break in transmission. That has always upset you when you're doing live. So many things can go wrong when you're going live. But I want to thank everybody, all of our viewers. So remember, like, subscribe, share, Share this with others. These are 40-year veterans sharing their story and how they got here, as well as it's not just their story, but this is tested, it's proven, and they're continuing to grow. So our final question for this evening, because I have still got a lot of them, it's about privacy, it's about the opposite sex, it's about attraction. It's about finances. So definitely I will announce when they're gonna be coming again. So you want to go to my website, Juanita E. Cameron .org/DFH and join that mail list. So you will know the schedule for upcoming speakers, guests, and upcoming events. So you'll know what the topics are that are coming up. The schedule has been planned up until I think the end of summer. So you definitely want to go there, get information, get the background story, and you can also see the previous episodes on the website. All right, that out of the way. Our final question for this evening in episode 2 is going to be about long distance relationships. And this is beautiful because you guys were actually in a long distance relationship, as I think about it, before you got married. And then, even when they got married, they ended up being in a long distance relationship for about, what is it, 2 years as a married couple. So here's the question. Hello? They're watching your live comments. There seemed to be a lot of distance between the two of you in the beginning stages, even up to 2 years of your marriage. Can you share with us some tips for those in a long distance relationship, especially now during the pandemic, that can help to keep the connection going and the communication flowing in order to grow the relationship? So we got a pandemic that's compounding it, and they're already in a long distance relationship. What tips can you give them to keep that connection and communication going?
First of all, you're in better times. We were not in this technological age, modern technological age. You are in a better time. You have the social media. It is like you are lying in your bed, he's lying in his bed, wherever which part of the world you're at, and you all can talk and enjoy each other, but you're not there physically. So that is key. It keeps you going. So the tip I would say is like every minute in the day, every hour in the day, whatever time you just want to feel like call. Just call and keep the line of communication going. Anytime she must call you, and maybe if you're working it might be a little difficult, or if she's at work, whatever, but you must be able to have that clear path so that you're not gonna feel as if something is up. And then if you all have Facebook, the social media, Instagram, Facebook, and all that, you're seeing each other there too. And you're sending love notes there so people know that there is something going on. The village is watching. Trust me, this is a nice village. That social media. It tells a lot of story. Because somebody will see there and say, girl, you know, good thing. Or they will say, boy, don't bother with she. She got a lot going on behind the scene. Because they see that you're all connected. So we're in a more a visual age where we see a lot of things happening. We're reading. And the social people could curse the social media how much they want, cost it how much they want. It helps because course it helps. Trust me, it helps because you know what? We can tell what is happening in that village. That's a village all by itself. So the tip for me is keep the line of communication very open.
That any tips for you from you, Pastor? What did you do? Remember, it's prefaced by we're in a pandemic. They're already in a long distance relationship,
Well,
and we're in a pandemic.
in our situation, we were never in a pandemic, and
You tell
so
them today, though.
today you have Zoom,
So
you
that
got
means video chatting is
video
important.
chatting is very important
Mm-hmm.
because you have the technology. In
Yeah.
our time, we had snail mail, telegram, or a phone call, and not many people had phones in their homes. And so, it was, and you couldn't go to the side of the road and get to a phone booth because even though we had those in the 70s and even into the very early 80s, but mainly in the 70s, you had phone booths in Georgetown, those red phone booths. And after a while, those things, people start vandalizing them and it disappeared. And but you know, the society change started to change back then because of the oil crisis, the first oil crisis that we had in the 70s. It affected so many things. But the point is, keep the communication going. You know that there is a pandemic. You know the challenges that are there. You got your cell phone. You got WhatsApp. You got Telegram. You got FaceTime. You got well, Instagram. You got Zoom. So many other things you can do. And so what you got to do is use the technology that's available to you to keep your communication going. And the world has changed from the time that when we got married to now. We've seen so much changes,
I can't imagine. It's 40
so
years.
many changes we have seen. And it's easier now to communicate. The world is a village. Is a village. Many years ago, we listened to the BBC. You got to get a shortwave radio to know what is going on around the world. But not so now. It's on your television, on your phone, on your tablet. And so use what you have.
Okay.
In every generation, things keep changing.
Yes.
Maximize what is available to
I
you
like that.
for your betterment.
In every generation, things keep changing. Maximize what's available to you for your benefit. That's a good note to end this segment of asking questions. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Sister Cameron. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Mommy. Yes. No, I don't know you because I've paid up. I've paid up. he said he said yeah, I owe them. No, you listen. So have I. We have been serving and supporting throughout this pandemic, and let me tell you, God has been faithful and He's been good. And for those of you who've been watching and been tuning in, I want to appreciate you and thank you so much. At this time, I would like to introduce a very special tribute for all of our married couples, those who are married, those who are hoping to be married. I want to share with you this special tribute to all the hopefuls, the newlyweds, and the seasoned couples. This is one of the favorite songs that I do that my mom especially loves, and it's a requested song at weddings from me. And it's also dedicated to those who are still growing in love every day. I'm sure it wasn't all a bed of roses for you. This song is usually performed by me, and you can put the song on the bed of roses, the lower tone. Thank you. And I want to appreciate my tech assistant this evening, Phoebe. Um, just give her some hearts, please. Pray for her because, anyhow, I would like to dedicate this song to all of the hopefuls, newlyweds, and seasoned couples. This song was recorded and composed and written by Orin Richards. And he was so kind and gracious to allow me to continue to perform the song. And I want to say thank you, Orin. It's a really good song, and the words are really good. And I pray that this song will bless all of you who are hearing it. So, those of you single ladies, single men, dear future husband, I know it might not be a bed of roses, or dear future wife, it might not be a bed of roses, but I'm just encouraging each of us that we will not forget to let God play a part. So here's yours truly singing for you. You want to
Yes,
say something?
yes, Adele. We will go to sleep. Whatever we do behind doors is that's none of your business.
Leave your comments in the comment section. Here is yours truly. And following that, stay tuned for a brief affirmation and a good evening. Go ahead. No bed of roses. To all the husbands and wives, I got a few things to tell you. This one is for the ladies. Lady, here's to you. Some things that you should do as you are going through this new life together. Stay by his side, be a loving wife. that love and joy provide through clear and stormy weather. You don't expect a bed of roses every day. Don't listen to the gossip on the way. Don't let tomorrow take from yesterday. And you'll grow to love each other more each day. And for the guys, husbands, as the year pass by and the hours fly, the apple of your eyes, there's no one to stop her. Feel free to boast, she's the one you love the most. She's the best from coast to coast. There's no one to top her. You don't expect a bed of roses every day. And don't listen to the gossip on the way. Yes. And don't let tomorrow take from yesterday. And you grow to love each other more each day. And don't forget to let God play a part. Give him a special placement in your heart. And don't expect a bed of roses every day. And don't listen to the gossip on the way. Yes. Don't you let tomorrow take from yesterday. Yes. And you grow to love each other more and more and more and more. Try your best to never wear a frown and settle arguments before the sun goes down. Be careful what you do and what you say, and you grow to love each other more and more and more and more. Don't expect a bed of roses every day. And don't listen to the gossip on the way, yeah. Don't let tomorrow take from yesterday. And you grow to love each other more each day, yeah, yeah. And you grow to love each other more each day. Wow, I hope that you enjoyed that. I'm so happy that you've been with me this evening. Thank you to everyone who has stayed. We appreciate you for joining us in this program as we continue to go further and further. I do want to encourage you that we have merch, special merch that you can purchase if you want to have a Dear Future Hubby t-shirt. We have them in 100% cotton, the white one with the logo, and then the hashtags Dear Future Hubby, Love Your Future Wifey. And later on in summer, we're going to do the reverse Dear Future Wifey, Love Your Future Husband. And then we have here hot red one that says, Hello, Future Husband, loving you in advance, your future wifey. As well as we have a Hug Me pillow. The Hug Me pillows are good. You want to get those. Hug Me pillows are so that you can feel a sense of connectivity, especially those in a long distance relationship. You need to get you a Hug Me pillow. You don't want to miss that out. I am so hopeful that if you get you a Hug Me pillow, you can read the affirmation on the Hug Me pillow. And this one is the one that I have right now that says, a little cuddle goes a long way. Looking forward to our pillow talks and our cuddle time every night for the rest of our lives. So you want to get you a Hug Me pillow. And the affirmation is there, as well as, you know, you can sip on some tea as you think about your dear future hubby, as well as your dear future wifey. And then for those of you who are like me that really like to write and make declarations and affirmations, I've created a love notes journal. Let me remove this so that you can see it. And in that love notes journal, you will be able to, on the first part, make an affirmation and a declaration towards your future spouse, as well as in the end, write your prayer for us. So I want to say thank you for those who have been staying on with us this evening. And now we have to share with you just an affirmation to my dear future husband at the end of every program. I'm going to always share an affirmation to my future husband. And it says, let me affirm you. Okay? And after this, it's good night and goodbye. See you on the 11th of March for episode 3. Dear future hubby, connections. God kills some of them before they kill you. I pray for you today that every wrong connection in your life gets by choice a divine disconnect. So God Himself